Today, our podcast is going to be with Mayor Brandon Weiberg and Councilwoman Carol Schumann. We're going to talk about some important things that are going on in Taylor's Falls, but first, I think and foremost, we want to talk about the cleanup day. So, Carol, why don't you start and tell us the date and so forth?
So the date is Saturday, May 17th, starting at 8 o'clock in the morning. And what our hope is that we can have a group, as many people as possible downtown, cleaning up, pulling weeds in the cracks in the sidewalk, picking up trash, and just kind of sprucing up our downtown. I think this is the third year maybe that we've done it. And then I'm not quite as familiar as what's going to happen at City Hall with the recycling. So maybe Brandon, you want to just talk about.
Yeah. We're going to have evergreen recycling back up at City Hall, and notices should go out with the water bills coming up. So we're going to try to do as much as possible to let everybody know that they can bring, any household or anything you want to get rid of up there. And they're going to be from 8 to noon at City Hall. So process is you drive in and they kind of check out and see what you have in your trailer or your truck or whatever you want to drop off. And certain items there's a fee, and certain items they'll take as recycling as well. So, but they'll be back doing that, and it's located behind City Hall, kind of over where Public Works building is. So.
Okay, and I think last year there was kind of some confusion too, that some people thought that there was going to be a dumpster, but there really isn't a dumpster, right?
No, they have two different semi-truck trailers, and one they'll put refuge in, any kind of garbage that they can't recycle, and then the other trailers for all the recyclables, and then they haul them away.
Okay.
So, and most of the time they have two people working there, so you don't have to unload. You just kind of pull up and they take it. And...
But I think that the important thing is to know that, like electronics, there's a fee, and that fee schedule, there will be notices of that, probably put on the website, and maybe some flyers made up just so that you know what to expect when you bring your recyclables up to City Hall. But it's a great opportunity to get things kind of cleaned up before we expect a lot of visitors this summer, like always.
Yep. No, it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
They do a good job. So.
Yeah. It's helpful because sometimes you just don't know where you can take things, and here it is right at City Hall.
TFCC will be downtown with coffee and donuts. So stop by and say hello. We'd love to see everyone. And I think people should know also that we're trying to make Taylor's Falls bright and charming and clean and nice for the citizens.
Yes.
Not just for the visitors.
Right. Good point.
Yeah. Everybody thinks we do everything for the tourists, but that's not true.
No.
So, Mr. Mayor, what are the biggest needs right now for Taylor's Falls?
I would say, looking at even just the cleanup day coming up, getting together and just getting that sense of community is huge. And I think if we continue to work on that, I think that's number one. And then we also get to know each other a little better, and people get to know their neighbors that they might not know. And so I think with cleanup day, that's really another bonus with it. Have coffee, clean up downtown, kind of see how things are going. You'll get to meet the business owners. A lot of them come out and they're there. So I think that's number one, a bonus on top of cleaning, I would say.
What about like the new fire truck?
Sure, yeah. We did approve a fire truck on the last council meeting, and actually it was 2 fire trucks. So I know a lot of people might be confused on what actually passed for $950,000 bond. Will be a fire truck itself, and then also a truck where they can transport the firefighters to the scene, whether it's a fire or a medical. And so we got 2 for less than what we were looking at for 1. So it really worked out well. The fire department did a heck of a job working down their cost, and they're going to get some tools as well for both of the rigs. And they're going to do a lot of the transport truck. They're going to do a lot of the build themselves. So that's where we're saving a lot of money on that as well. So Dan and Jake and all them, they did a really great job on working out the cost, and we got more for less, I guess you could say.
Right.
So why did we need a fire truck?
Good question. The fire department and I met several times, and the main goal with many fire departments, including ours, is to reduce their fleet size, and then also look at aging trucks. And some of our trucks are from the 1980s, and this new truck, they can combine 2 of the old trucks that we have. One that wasn't being used very rarely unless it was a big fire, and then the other one they can just get rid of because they're going to have one that does both. So.
And there was a big fire in town just recently. How did our fire departments stack up?
I think our fire department was wonderful. I know they got there shortly after the fire was reported, and called out for help from several other fire departments, including St. Croix Falls, Schaefer, Center City, and Lindstrom. And so we had a nice group of people working very hard to get that fire put out, make sure nobody was injured. I think they did a wonderful job.
What about the residents of that facility? How were they treated?
As far as I know, I got to meet, there was 13 people, I believe, is what we counted, that was staying at the Springs Inn. And 10 of them needed assistance, and the sheriff's department worked on getting the Red Cross to come out. And so Friday, about 10:30, 11, I believe, up at the community center, 2 people from the Red Cross out of the Minneapolis area came up and met with those that needed help. And I know 10 of them needed assistance finding places to go, I believe. 3 of them already had a place to go. So they did a really great job working with each person depending on the size of the family, or where they needed to go or what they needed help with. So
give us a little bit, how did you take care of them, or how were they taken care of? I know they started out at the Catholic Church, St. Joseph's.
The sheriff's department worked with the Catholic Church and got the residents over there because it was very cold out. And they had to, but I think they had an event coming up at the church itself, so they couldn't keep them there. So the office staff at City Hall went down and opened up the community center. They called the local businesses and got some food donations from Walmart, and then they also picked up sandwich trays from Marketplace and brought them up, and we had coffee and water readily available for the residents to stay and keep warm until we could get them help. And then also the fire departments were welcome to come up and warm up and get something to eat, because it was a long day for everyone.
So there was a lot of community action.
Absolutely.
I know you called and wanted some help from the churches.
Yeah, we really, in a small community, we depend on our churches, and I know when I've had issues in the past, of like when my parents' home burned, we had help from a church. So we were offered a place to go to stay warm. We were lucky that we didn't need a lot of help, but that's what I really look at as a small community like this. Our churches come together and kind of help us help anybody that's in need. And this is a very large fire and big circumstance where I think it took the churches, it took the city staff, and it took all the residents that kept on calling and wanting to help. And including the Red Cross. We got to learn a lot about how they help people. And we didn't have any shelters for the residents to go to. Unfortunately, the Red Cross called the shelters and they were all full because of the cold weather and a few other fires that had happened in the county. So the Red Cross worked with them on a case-by-case basis. I'm not sure how they helped them. That's private and personal, but it looked like everybody was getting help. And then Sunday, I got a phone call, Saturday, I should say, from the CEO of the Red Cross saying, can we reopen the community center? Because some of the individuals needed more assistance. And so we reopened. I was up at the community center from about 9:15 till about 3 o'clock that day, where I think I had about 6 of the residents come back and get some more help. And a few picked up some bags of clothes that were donated. We have plenty of clothes that are back at City Hall too that weren't picked up from some of them. So if they see this and they need the clothes, we have it up there, and Sherry and staff will have it for them.
Councilwoman Schuman.
It's okay.
I get myself straight here. You're kind of heading up a community action group based on this fire. You want to tell them a little about that?
Right. So, city staff called me on that Friday morning and said, is there anything that the churches could do? And so I called around to the 4 churches in town. I gathered a representative from each church, and we just got together, I don't know, it was in the morning, so maybe 11 o'clock, and just kind of talked about, what do we have immediately available? And we kind of realized that while we have the heart to help people, we really didn't have a plan, and we didn't have the things to help them. So we have kind of started, like a community relief fund. Well, that's not really a fund, but we want to be prepared, and we want to be able to assist people immediately when there is an event like this. So we've been meeting about once a month, and we are going to put together a little, maybe Ziploc baggie of toothbrush, toothpaste, just some of those essentials that we would have and we could give out to anybody, that's lost a home in a fire, in a tornado, in any kind of an event. And then we've talked about getting some quilts together, possibly some gift cards, and kind of how would we be activated. And we want to have this at each of the churches so that if one of us is out of town, it doesn't stop the whole process. But if we're called at our church but we're not around, then call the next church or call the next church. So it's been very, very positively received. People within the churches are very excited about, we want to do this. We want to help our community. We want to be available. So it's been a very practical solution, and we'll kind of learn as we go.
So in the last year, 2 years, there's been a lot of action in Taylor's Falls in terms of the government, in terms of getting things done. What's next on the agenda?
I'll go.
Okay.
So I have been participating in the community action plan meetings, and it has been so just so positive, so much enthusiasm in these groups, that bringing people together from the community that say, this is what I would love to see in Taylor's Falls. This is the vision that I have for Taylor's Falls, or this is on my dream list. And so it's a lot of brainstorming. It's the opportunity for citizens to be heard. And I think probably from that, we will be coming forth with plans, and hopefully how to implement these plans and bringing these to the city council. Because we don't want to see these ideas just get put in a drawer and forgotten about. in order to really benefit our city, they need to be implemented. So I think that that's one thing that we can kind of expect that's coming in the next year, maybe. I mean, definitely in the next few months. And so I would encourage everybody to, if you have thoughts, if you have things that you would like to see in the city, I mean, because we're still at the dreaming portion of this, but either contact someone at City Hall, or you can contact me, you could contact anybody that's a part of the Community Action Plan, and just let your voice be heard, because we really want this to be a community driven project that moves forward.
I'm really excited to see what comes from it.
I know.
Really am. I haven't went to the meetings because I want to be surprised, and I know I'm going to be surprised because the few people that are going there, I shouldn't say few because there's quite a few, but a few of them have reached out to me and said they're really excited to share the visions for Taylor's Falls for the future. So I'm really excited to see that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm also excited on our next council meeting to see the presentations for the MnDOT lot. I know there's been a lot of rumblings out there, whether it's social media or reaching out to us direct and wanting to know what's going on. So we're going to have 5 people come and do their presentations to council and to the community, and we can ask questions, and the community, of course, can always ask questions at our meetings. And we'll kind of make a decision together. I don't know if a decision necessarily will be made on the 28th, but after that we'll have time to think and ask other questions if anything come up. And so I'm really excited to see what comes out of the presentations. I know we've seen a few, but we haven't seen everything together, so it'll be exciting. So that's one thing I'm really excited about.
For just a second, I'm going to go back to the fire that we had. There's a lot of talk in town about different things concerning that facility. Can you kind of do a little dialogue on what exactly is happening?
It's a private business. It's a private lot. It's owned by a private party. So we really don't have much going on. I know Elizabeth has been working along with the county with the individual just to get cleaned up, and then see what the future brings. So I'm sure that business owner is excited about cleaning up that property, and can't wait to get that at least a blank slate for him to either rebuild or sell or whatever he wants to do. But yeah, that's all I know.
Right. At this point, we haven't heard any plans of what he will do, whether he will sell or whether he will rebuild. So we don't know at this point. And as we dream and think about what does our city need, there's a lot of different viewpoints of what we need, but we have no control over what happens at that lot, because it is privately owned.
That clears up a lot of questions that we see out there. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, what are we going to do with the roof and the facility that is City Hall?
Well,
and the problems at City Hall.
Sure. Well, I remember 3 years ago walking in and the buckets and the totes everywhere catching rain, right. And then at night having to cover all the desks up with tarps or painters tarps just so that the equipment doesn't get wet. We've came a long ways because we found somebody that does a great job locally that repairs. They're temporary repairs, unfortunately, because there's a lot of damage in the rubber on the current roof. So I know Councilman Grote, Kevin at Public Works, Robert, Councilman Robert
Bear
have been working with Garland, and they're a roofing company / general contractor, you could say, where they have their own product And so they want to put their own product on the roof, obviously, but they've actually put in a plan to replace our roof. Also do all the caulking on the sides of the building, because that all needs to be redone because it's letting water through the windows, as well as insects, a lot of insects, fly problems, you name it. And also designed so that we're going to get 2 new air conditioning units on the roof as well, and heat. So now all 4 of them will be replaced, so they'll be all new within the last few years. So it's exciting to see what they've done. They've put a lot of work into it, and we've also, had Councilman Baird really work hard on making sure that we're letting everybody bid. So if you're a roofing company or contractor in the area, when that gets posted on when you can come in and bid and do the pre-bid meeting, you're welcome to come with non-Garland products as well. So, that's great, and hopefully we have somebody local that wants to come in and help us out and do a great job, and create a city hall that we won't have these issues for at least another 30 years, 40 years.
Does this new roof include the part that is the fire hall?
Yes, it's the entire building. So they have leaks over in there too. So they've been dealing with leaks in the apparatus area and their office as well, I believe.
And since our last podcast, I think you've also, you being the government, taking care of the septic problem.
Yeah, yep. City Hall's actually hooked up to the city sewer now, so it wasn't. And the septic was failing, so we were getting it pumped out a lot just to make sure that we were doing everything properly. So Kevin worked with some of our local contractors, and they're hooked up, and that's been going really well. So it's good to have that done.
Absolutely.
Well, and I just know too that, I wondered, why do we have to replace the roof? And I think that when it was put in, it was warranted for like 20 some years, and it's been 25 years. So that kind of helped me to understand why it was failing, because it had reached its life. But also the ones that we're looking at now are a 30-year, and I think it was a 20-year roof when it was initially put in. So yes, it is a lot of outlay of money, but it's also for many years too.
Absolutely. And it's not rubber anymore. They're building it up. It's a built-up roof versus the rolled rubber membrane that we currently have. So that, from talking to Garland in the one meeting I was with 2 meetings so far with them, besides when they were at our council meeting kind of explaining, they usually go farther than the 30-year warranty that they mark, and you can buy additional warranty if they come out and inspect everything and it's still going. So there's a lot of opportunities to make sure that we get the most life out of this new roof. So I'm excited for it. I really am. Either way it goes, I'm just excited for the leaking to stop, and
and for the mold, and there's so many issues when there's leaking. So to have that resolved for our staff.
Absolutely.
It's a lovely building. It needs to be taken care of.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, I'm going to hit the nail on the head here and talk about what people are talking about, and that is the cannabis issue. Where do we stand with the state, with licensing? Just give us an overview.
The city only has 1 cannabis license, and that's currently already an application filled out to our current business in town. So they have the license. We do have interested parties that are looking at possibly putting in another dispensary in town over on the MnDOT lot, but no decisions have been made. They've been they're going to come and present on the 28th, and council will also listen to both EDC and the zoning on their recommendations, and we'll make a decision that's best for the community. After
what about
the 28th.
Those who say we shouldn't have any cannabis sold in Taylor's Falls?
You know, unfortunately, we can't control what St. Paul does, and it's coming, whether we want to agree with it or not. And so we're going to try to make the best of this situation for the community. And I truly believe our current business that's in place right now has all the best intentions for Taylor's Falls, and he fits, you know, your family-owned type small town. And he's very serious about what he does, so I think, you know, that'll keep the children safe. And he just does it with class. So I understand the anger or angst. Unfortunately, we can't get St. Paul to change their mind now. It's too far into the process, so it might take a long time. From what I've heard, that they're in lawsuits and
Right.
with how they're doing their licenses, and it keeps on getting pushed out and pushed out. So now we're looking at probably 2026, or maybe even longer before. But you know, we'll let them deal with that.
Yeah.
We'll deal with what we can handle here.
Well, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that if a company or a business came to request a marijuana license in your city, you are obligated to grant one. That, if I'm right, we were not allowed to say no to any. I mean, that was in the legislation. So we have said yes to one, and if we, I mean, we always have the opportunity to increase that, but at this point we have said yes to one license.
And the whole thing's changing every day.
I know.
Seems. So I mean, I haven't read the latest and greatest that's happening on it, but you know, I think Elizabeth has been really on top of it with Fritz, our city attorney. So they've been watching it, and you know, we're just kind of moving forward with what we have. I do believe the county, don't quote me on this, but I think they have 4.5 licenses they allowed for the county. But if we were to not put the ordinance in, we're saying that we're going to have one and that's it, then we could have had all 4 here. And we couldn't have said no. So Elizabeth and zoning worked really quickly, and great work on making sure that, you know, we got to have one, we're going to have one, and we can always increase, like you said. But if we were to put more on, we can't decrease as easily. So
Right. I don't think so at all.
I know we're kind of bouncing all over the place, but we don't have we have one license.
That we know.
Bouncy house. What's next? What is the next big situation that you know of? Not the surprise ones that always seem to be coming up, but what's the next thing that needs to be taken care of?
You know, I guess I'm kind of looking at the water and sewer study that we had done,
Yeah.
and I'd like to bring that back on the table. Hopefully, you know, June, end of May, beginning of June for our meetings there, so we can discuss what the city wants to do with the rates. Do we want to move forward with what the recommendations were for the increases for the next few years to build those funds up? Do we want to go a different route? You know, do we have other things that are happening? You know,
What did the report say?
Well, I don't have it in front of me, so I don't
No,
remember the
no.
increases. But I know for the next 4 years, it was a steady increase. Don't quote me, maybe like 20% increase. And that alarms everybody. But when you look at the dollar amount, I remember seeing on there, it wasn't as bad. But basically, the fund balances are so low on the city water and sewer side of it, even though they're the best looking balances that we have. But if we have anything major that happens that we have to take care of, we don't have the balances built up enough to do that. So we would be forced to go bond on that. We really don't want to. We've been talking that language too much.
Yeah.
You know, and other things are happening in this county, and that are going to cause things to go up too. So, you know, we got to kind of pay attention to that, but we got to make sure that we stay on track. And we paid for that study, so we need to do something with it. You know, and you know, our force main, the one force main, on First it's very old, and they've been repairing a lot the last couple of years. Kevin's been doing a lot of repair work, and so within the next 5 or 6 years minimum, we're gonna have to replace that. And right now, I think it's $1.5 million is what they said would take to replace that whole thing, give or take. And no quotes have been done, so I mean we're just looking at what our engineering firm has said. So with the raises, with the water rate study, if we followed that, that would help us get closer to being able to not bond for as much. We would never be at, we wouldn't have that much money saved, unfortunately, but we'd be a lot better off, in 4 or 5 years if we followed the study. But again, we just kind of listened, and we haven't done anything with it yet. So we got to do something with it. I'm not sure what the right thing is, but.
Well, and Brandon, aren't you going down to St. Paul to speak, or maybe not speak, but to meet with our representative?
Yep. Max Reimer met with Robert and myself, and we were just talking about different things that's been going on. He just kind of catching up on what's happening in Taylor's Falls.
Mm-hmm.
And we had mentioned the water rate study and sewer, and that we're going to start looking at a project coming in the next 5 or 6 years. And Max said that the state is actually bonding for sewer and water repairs. And so he said we should go down and meet with them. And so we filled out a bill number, and he sent it in. He did all the work. I mean, we didn't do that. He took care of us there. And the great thing is Jake at ISG put together a nice 1-page summary of our force main issue and why we need to get it replaced, sooner than later. And so next Wednesday at 9 a.m., Jake and myself, and anybody can go. It's a public meeting, but we're going to go in front of this committee, and they give us 3 to 4 minutes to discuss our issue, what we're looking for.
Yeah.
And Representative Reimer thinks that we have a pretty good shot at getting the bond from the state, and that would be wonderful for us. I mean, all the citizens, we wouldn't be on the hook for the 1.5.
Yeah.
We might have to put some money down. It
Yeah.
depends on what they approve, if they approve it, but we're really shooting for the whole thing. So.
That's cool.
Why don't we revisit our first thing that we talked about, the cleanup day?
So come downtown on Saturday, May 17th, and spread the word to everyone that, bring your gloves, your rakes, your shovels, and just pitch in. Even if you can only help for an hour or two, it can make a big difference and clean up our city. Like you said, Sandra, for those that live there, we clean our own house, not just for visitors, but we clean it for ourselves too. But just get things kind of spiffed up for the summer.
Absolutely. And bring the kids. My
Yeah.
kids came down last year, and they had a great time going around and picking weeds out of the
They ate a
sidewalk.
lot of donuts.
They ate a lot of donuts.
And they're so agile. They can bend over and pick things up.
But it's a good time for everybody to kind of get to know each other too,
Right.
and we'll do it as a team, and
Yeah.
we'll also have the yard site open. So if you have leaves and trees and sticks and everything, compost.
Is
I
open.
know we're not supposed to call it a compost site, but
whatever.
but we'll have that open, and somebody down there helping people put in the right pile. So
It is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. So spread the word. And thank you, Mayor Weiberg, and thank you, Councilwoman Schumann. And we'll see you at the next podcast. And we think we might be having some of the people who work at City Hall and tell you what they do and what they do to keep the city running. So see you next time.